As the light emerges from Vilai, Vilai orders it to stop whining and become quiet. As the sword resonates calmly, Vilai mutters that it has calmed down a little, and soon enough, the sword of rulers will become his own. From behind, Hans comes in with his sword as he attacks, causing him to fall. But Vilai states that getting in his way at such an important time is ridiculous. As he tries to punch, the scene shifts towards the church where Lorena is with Yan. Yan states that Lorena mentioned that there is a shelter underneath the tower, safe from one direction, to which Yan replies that he wants her to rest here until this whole thing is over. Lorena shuts him up, stating not to be ridiculous, as they will fight together. Yan replies that she can't do that with her injured leg, which she got hurt when the tower fell. Lorena affirms it's nothing much and states that everyone is fighting and she can't just hide here. If he wants her to just sit by and watch her territory get bloodied, she won't. Yan replies that she was always the cool-headed one, but he guesses when it comes to family matters she loses that trait. He questions if she thinks her role is to fight. Yan assures her not to worry, as there's something she has to do to help them get to Vilai. Lorena questions what she has to do and says she'll do anything as long as they can defeat him. Yan asks her to give him the most precious thing inside her, saying it will help them defeat Vilai. Confused, Lorena questions what he means as she gets embarrassed, while Momon pokes at him, questioning how he could say it like that. Yan tries to clarify, saying she misunderstood, and what he meant was the steps to Snow Soul. He asks her to teach him. He states he doesn't have time to go into details, and right now, this is the only way to defeat Vilai. Without the steps, he can't stop him. Lorena questions if he's out of his mind, as the steps to Snow Soul are a secret technique passed down only within the Beowolf family. She explains she can't share it with anyone, not even him, as the household's rule has been upheld for centuries. The scene shifts to the steeple's second-floor weapon vault as it gets destroyed. Meanwhile, Vilai taunts Hans, saying his subordinates are dying, and yet he, as their leader, is stealing from others. He questions if Hans knows what he just did. Hans replies that he's simply here to kill the rat hiding in their house as he unleashes Snow Soul 12th form, White Flow upon Vilai. Seeing the attack, Vilai replies that each petal is covered with enhanced sword aura and marvels at how strong Hans is, second only to the Duke. But as he powers up his arm with the battle aura of Rainfall, he declares Hans won't be able to stop him. He unleashes his attack. Hans can't believe Vilai tore apart his battle stance. Vilai warns him not to get in his way. Hans, taken aback, laments that if only he weren't old, he could have dealt with it. As the sword still penetrated on the ground, Yan reached for it, thinking he barely made it on time. Yan feels relieved he asked Hans to come here first, though he probably can't last long. Momon warns that once the sword reacts, Vilai will notice. Yan states that's why, before it happens, he'll end this. As he touches the sword, energy releases from it, taking Yan back. Earlier, when Lorena scolded him, Lorena reminded Yan that their household's rule has been upheld for centuries. Yan questioned her, asking if the people are more important than the rules. He asked her to decide, will she stick to the rule or protect her people? Lorena hesitated to mention the person who once broke the household's rule, but she admitted Yan was right. She decided to do what she could now and entrusted everything to him. She placed Yan's hand on her body and asked him to focus, questioning if he could feel the flow of mana inside her. Yan affirmed he could, and Lorena instructed him to follow the steps. She explained how to rotate the mana, achieve stillness, and cause one's soul to bloom like a snowstorm. Yan, recalling the steps of Snow Soul, realized it was just like back then. As the energy entered his body, as the sword resonated with Yan, and he finally obtained the dragon sword, Astalon. As Yan admires the dragon sword, Astalon, in its true form, while Hans, dealing with Vilai, remarks that it's astounding. He comments on how Vilai was able to slowly see through his sword attacks during their fight, wondering if he has endless stamina and mana. Hans acknowledges this as the strength of the commander, Chieftain Vilai. Meanwhile, Vilai states that it's impressive for Hans to have lasted this long while consuming his life force, but it seems this is the end for him. Just as Vilai moves to finish him, he senses a light from the vault and questions whether someone has obtained the sword of the rulers. Seeing Jan, Vilai becomes enraged, stating that he spared Jan's life for Kabu's sake, yet Jan dares to betray him. As Hans seizes an opportunity, he tries to slash Vilai. Hans mocks him for getting distracted during battle, but to see Vilai easily stopping his sword with a single hand. Vilai reminds him their fight ended long ago. Crushing Hans's sword, Vilai declares that if it weren't for Hans getting in his way, he would have already obtained the sword. Vilai attempts to punch Hans, who closes his eyes, bracing for impact, but nothing happens. Hans opens his eyes to find Vilai's hand frozen, bound in ice chains. Hans remarks that there shouldn't be anyone capable of using magic here and wonders who could have done it. Jan steps forward, stating that it's just as he thought. Vilai turns and realizes it was Jan who froze his hand. Furious, Vilai questions how Jan dared to lay his hands on the sword of the rulers. He marvels at the power of Astalon, alone, thinking how incredible it is. Vilai acknowledges that Snow Soul must enhance ice magic, and with the added power of Astalon, the ice magic's strength has multiplied. Vilai questions how Jan could wield the sword of the rulers with a body that has 3 mana holes and demands to know what Jan did to himself. Jan realizes Vilai saw through everything immediately, attributing it to his god's eye, a troublesome ability. Vilai sneers, questioning if the sword of the rulers is truly that powerful. He crushes through the frozen binds and screams in delight, declaring the sword truly befits him. Vilai boasts that if the sword has selected him, he'll kill Jan and take it back. Hans and Jan realize an immense amount of energy is being gathered as Vilai unleashes the battle aura. Black Sun Punch upon Jan. Calmly, Jan wields the sword and uses the Frost Knight's basic sword technique, oblique slash. The slash tears through the buildings and strikes Vilai, injuring his body. Vilai, however, mocks Jan, stating that this level of attack is never going to be enough. Vilai barely manages to counterattack, forcing Jan to block it. Jan observes that he barely blocked Vilai's attack. Vilai comments that it's been a long while since he received such an injury, wondering if the sword of the rulers was what tore through his muscles. He notes how it managed to counter his strongest battle aura, even with his enhanced sword aura. Vilai, now injured, states that he understands the sword's true nature. It can cut through mana itself. Jan denies this, correcting Vilai by explaining that Astalon is not a simple sword, but one that can stop the flow of mana entirely. Jan smiles and tells Vilai that if he doesn't understand the difference, he can't control it. Enraged, Vilai tells Jan to stop talking nonsense and promises to show him the difference as he claims the sword for himself. Suddenly, Vilai feels something cold at his feet. Looking down, he realizes his feet have been frozen solid. For the first time in his life, despite being born in the harsh north, Vilai feels a cold breeze that chills him to his core. A shadow of death looms over him. A voice echoes from a distant wall, cursing and demanding to know who dares to be there. Vilai sees an old figure step forward and recognizes him as Duke Beowolf. Vilai can't believe his eyes as he states that this is ridiculous as there is ice in the air. Duke threatens that how dare a barbarian come here, and he just asked him what he is doing in his house. He orders him to choose his words wisely, as they could be his last words. Vilai states that they finally met, and he must have at least heard of his name before, as he introduces himself as Vilai, the commander chieftain that united 20 tribes. The Duke silences him that if there's a need for him to know the name of an insignificant barbarian, Vilai clenches his teeth as he realizes that he's arrogant, but he possesses the right to do so. He has never seen someone with that much mana and tends to think he didn't notice such a huge amount of mana approaching, questioning if this is because he's under the influence of the Sword of Rulers and if this is Jan's plan. Vilai states that this is better, as in any case they should be fighting one day. He crunches through the ice and dashes toward the Duke, stating that this time has simply been brought forward. The Duke states that someone as significant as him shouldn't be mentioning his name as he activates the mana circle. But Vilai, closing in on him, states that it's too late and he has to die now. The Duke activates his domain expansion and uses the Snow Soul final form of Eternal Frost, freezing Vilai on the spot. The barbarians are screaming to avenge their brothers and to kill the people, but they are frozen in an instant. The soldiers notice that the barbarians are turning into ice as they realize that the Duke is back and celebrate that they are safe now. The Duke tells Hans that if he's all right, for which he states that he's fine. Hans says that it has been a long time since he saw his domain expansion, and it is still as incredible as ever. This is the power of the Eternal Frost. The Duke questions Hans about how he has grown old and how he could be struggling to deal with a barbarian. He adds that he almost got killed by him. Hans knows the Duke's Beowolf Snow Soul final form, Eternal Frost, freezes all enemies within its reach while no allies are harmed. This is the leader of the Beowolf household that protects the North. After explaining, the Duke questions if something like this has happened, for which Hans apologizes that he is ashamed. The Duke states to forget it, and it seems that Lorena and the people of their dukedom are safe now. Hans states that someone helped greatly this time, and asks Jan to come here and introduce himself to the Duke. But noticing that he is not anywhere, he questions where he went. The Duke mentions that he's really fast at running away, for which Hans denies that's not the kind of person he is. The Duke says they should get out of here quickly, but in the frozen state, Vilai opens his eyes and prepares to launch an attack, crushing the ice. Vilai says that he let his guards down, for which the Duke says that it's not bad, but he can't kill him at his level. Vilai states that he might not be able to kill him, but what about the others as he throws an attack upon the tower? Hans screams that those are the refugees within the tower. Hans smiles that he will get out of here while they go and protect them. But in an instant, Jan defends and crosses through the attack as he states that until the very last moment, he's annoying as ever. He slashes through his attack. Vilai curses that until the end he's getting in his way. Jan, while falling through the air, thinks that he's tired and topped off using a new magic and a new sword. He had to fight that monster while protecting Lorena and used all of his stamina and mana. He really gave it his all and thinks that it's time to rest a little, as if he will leave the rest to the others. As Jan tries to close his eyes, he hears someone calling for him. Lorena jumps onto Jan and asks him to grab her hand. Jan thinks about how she is not even giving him the chance to rest, but this isn't bad, as he grabs Lorena's hand. The news of the barbarians' invasion spreads quickly throughout the impact while the scene shifts towards the Crow. The commander gets notified about this as he smiles down, thinking that the era quietly and slowly starting to move.